Hi, this is Andrea. I am the mother to a beautiful autistic daughter, and I believe in a better future for her and all other neurodivergent young people. So I hope this is not your first time listening, but if it is, I'm also one of the many parent advocates for neurodiversity in Oxfordshire, UK. Being an advocate allows me to use my voice for my daughter, for other parents, for neurodivergent individuals themselves, and for professionals. Welcome to Season 2 of the Neurodiverse Voices Podcast. Hi everyone, it's such a beautiful day out there. The sun is shining, which is something that didn't happen for a while here in Oxford, so we are very happy. And my guest, he's someone truly special. He's one of those people who, you can feel from a distance that he has a really good soul. And I don't even know him for that long, but he's amazing. And I thought I would invite him to be one of my superstar guests at the Neurodiverse Voices podcast. Welcome, Mark, mentor at Oxford Creators. Hi, Mark.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
That's okay. Feel free to interrupt anytime you want to.
Thanks for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Great. And I'm very, very happy to have you here with me. We've been talking about this for a while now, and the day has finally arrived.
Yeah. I'm happy to be here and ready to talk clearly because I'm already butting in.
Amazing. Great that you're ready. So my first question is, what has brought you to this stage of your journey with neurodiversity?
Okay, so this sounds like a bit of a this is my life kind of story thing. So I left school as a kid at 15, struggled at school, had no qualifications, had a childhood bereavement at 9. I lost my dad to cancer.
I'm very sorry to hear.
And really struggled throughout school, was diagnosed with depression, didn't do well at all. But later on, I kind of managed to find my way, find a path. I got into a career as an AV freelancer since my early 20s. So essentially working with audio, events. At the end of my 20s, got into working with graphics, just obsessed with creating stuff and kind of found my niche. I've just got such a passion for video and music. From then, basically, I've worked running multiple sort of sole trader businesses and got to this year. And I was trying to come up with a concept because being based in Oxford, we don't have like the most amazing scene for music. You've got London just up the road, you've got Bristol up the road, you've got Birmingham, you've got all these great cities. But in Oxford, it's a little bit of a struggle to get something started. So grassroots music is a bit of a battle. So I thought, right, how can I basically spend all of my time and all of my days doing studio work? So if I could make it more community based, then I could essentially get something off the ground. And my partner worked for 12 years as a youth worker. So I'd had a go at working with some youth where we tried some studio sessions, recording some music, and I thought, well, I'm going to have a go at this. And I've gone out and I've reached out to sort of 30 different organisations, youth organisations, and gone round and done some workshops. So I've done some music production and video and some photography and a little bit of podcasting with some of the kids. And it was very fun, very interesting, a bit of a battle to, again, get established because arts can sometimes be that way. There's not the funding. Yes. And the last person I spoke to was a woman called Vina, who runs lots of creators. And I'll be honest with you, I was very close to kind of throwing in the towel and thinking, right, I'm just going to go back to freelancing. And then we had a chat and she was like, "Oh, what you're doing sounds amazing. You should come and do some mentoring for us." And the rest is history now. Yeah,
Mark is the music production and digital mentor.
so yeah, that's right. Yeah, so
Neurodiverse Voices Podcast, celebrating difference. Amazing path, and it's really inspiring actually to know that you went through all of that in your at your younger times, and you managed to be resilient and follow your dreams, and here we are, and you are working on them.
Well, also I'd like to say, so becoming an adult is kind of a journey of self-awareness, and I kind of feel like definitely with some of my behaviour as a child, so I know there are lots and lots of people that are now identifying themselves and trying to diagnose themselves with certain things, and like having become more aware of sort of like neurodiversity, I'm absolutely 100% convinced that I've got ADHD, and the creative outlets, the fact that I can hyper focus on my passions but I've had to create my own environments to work in, or be in such a relaxed, it's like I've got this mode that can only be activated in it's like almost like a perfection mode, where if there are distractions going on around me, so if I say I'm going to go and, I don't know, paint the shed on a Monday or something, and then that day comes around, the levels of procrastination, if something is off, someone's in my way, someone's at home, or if I have a tradesman turning up, there are lots of things that I could be distracted on, and I have to create this environment of harmony to kind of get myself to work.
Yeah, you need to find your own mechanisms and your own ways of coping with the world and what you want to do. Yeah. But yes, I totally get you. I always had a bit of a creative mind. I always loved writing, and I remember being a teenager, and I always fell in love easily with boys, but then I would have my heart broken. Oh my God, I'm sharing all of this in here. So my best friends, yes, and I had best friends, was the pen and the paper, and I would write. I even wrote a book once. I don't know where it is now, which is a shame. But I always had this thing, and yes, my passion for music and singing. My birthday parties would be me, and if I had friends around, unfortunately it was always in summer, so people would be away, but I always had 2-3 friends around, so we would sit, all my family and the guests, and then we would be on the stage singing the Spice Girls and whatever was popular at the time. But I feel you. I think growing up I didn't have that notion of me needing that hyper-focus and creating this environment. But now, because I tend to say that I found myself at the age of 40, or just as I turned 40, that until then I was still finding myself. I totally understand that, if even though my brain doesn't stop, and, I'm always having ideas and thinking, oh, how can we do this? What else can I do? But when it gets to do actual work or something that you need to do, I really need to be focused and create my own environment. But isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, for sure. And so the other thing, again, I mean, a lot of what I'm saying is anecdotal, because a lot of us now are reading stuff on social media, and that's kind of how we're going, hang on a minute, this is really rings true to me. And it's the my desire to butt in when people are talking, not because I'm trying to be rude or anything, but because I'm so stimulated by the conversation. And it's the fact that it's completely anecdotal, but the fact that what you're saying is relevant to me, so I therefore want to empathize and share my story and go, oh, I get what you're saying, I completely understand. And I notice myself doing it more and more, and now I feel like I'm doing it a lot of the time with some of my friends that are, I've got a couple of friends that previously they would phone me up and then go, sorry, yeah, I'm just going to hang up on you now. And I would think it was really rude. And now I realise that their train of thought has gone. And I thought, there's a couple of them. I think actually, yeah, maybe they're ADHD as well.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, reading more about this I guess with us, because we either have family or friends who are neurodiverse, we get more interested in the topic, and this is one of the things I would like to see more for, that everyone would be interested in neurodiversity. I know that there's a lot of talks about, now everyone is autistic, now everyone has ADHD. No, that's not the point. We are all neurodiverse because no brain is equal to another brain, right? Yeah. But then, of course, some diverge from the typical, from the norm. But it's good. At least we have the understanding, right? And I would really encourage everyone to read more. This is something I'm trying to do with the podcast, is that just be curious. And most of my guests say that if you are curious, at least you will have some understanding, even if you haven't come across a neurodivergent person within your network. So yay to that, Mark. It's really good when we get to know ourselves, because it only helps us, right? And it helps those around us, because if you know how you react to something, then you will know how to guide others to react according to your needs. So, Neurodiverse Voices Podcast, celebrating difference.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, it's great that we're now becoming, like I said, it's not something that's like newfangled and, because it's not, I'm sure people have always been neurodivergent. It's just, people were less accepting, and now we're becoming more accepting, hopefully, as a society of kind of everything,
I even have suspicions, well, it's not confirmed because he's not with us anymore, that Albert Einstein was autistic, for example. And it's all about celebrating what's different and stop the stigma that there's still around. So, and we will get there, I'm pretty sure, because I believe in a better future for not everyone who is neurodivergent, but, a more equal world in general. That's what I would really like to see. So I think you kind of answered my next question, which is what inspired you to focus on neurodiversity in your career, or slightly? Do you want to?
Yes. Oh God, I did go off on a bit of a tangent, actually. If anyone is listening, I did actually type all of these questions out and answer them in paper format last night, because I didn't want to become too overwhelmed by the questions and so kind of deviate from the topic. So it's just basically just wanted to create opportunities for, it's kind of a broad church. I wanted to create opportunities for everyone, and it just so happens that the majority of the kids I'm now working with happen to be neurodiverse, and I love it though. I absolutely I'm having such I have such a great time. Well, it's quite funny. So I've now started referring to myself as like the sixth student, because we were on ITV recently, and the cameraman, even though I'm 39 years old, thought I was one of the students, and the students can sense that they're very intelligent, and they've got lots of intuition, and they can sense that I was a lot of fun, shall I say, back in the day, and so I definitely can really relate to them. I think they see me as quite young. They must just see me as quite mature, maybe, because I'm quite relaxed and laid back, and maybe they're in school and they're coming up against quite stern-faced teachers, and that's fantastic. Not my approach.
And to have that natural ability of connecting with them, I find that's probably the difference, as you were saying. Maybe in schools they had grumpy teachers. Hopefully not. We know that we have wonderful teachers, but having that natural ability of connecting with young people is amazing, because you can be, you are the cool mentor, and all the mentors that Oxford Creators are cool. I'm not, but we are talking about Mark today. I find that really, really fantastic. So well done.
So I hope, like, basically you'll probably be able to kind of sense that I love humor and laughing, and it's my way. And if you can make people laugh, you can put them at ease a little bit, and then they relax. And that's just my attitude to life, is to not take things too seriously. There's a time and a place for being serious.
Yeah, and unfortunately, life puts some very serious stuff on our way. So we should, take it less serious whenever we can, for sure. Neurodiverse Voices Podcast, celebrating difference. Great. So how do you feel about mentoring or caring for someone who's neurodivergent?
I do enjoy offering them support. As I said, a lot of my work is just almost off of instinct. And it's just, I believe in just treating people, I'm a compassionate person, and I believe that you kind of got to meet people where they're at. So, if people, I don't know, I'm trying to give an example. If people are interested, like hyper interested in, I don't know, whatever it will be, trains, and say, because this is just a random example, but if you were super interested in trains and my job is to teach you content creation, let's go and look at some trains, and let's go and make some stuff about what you're passionate about, rather than let's not try and force you to, I don't know, play football if you've got no interest in football, that kind of thing. Then let's focus on what you love, and we'll work our way out from from sort of channeling into your passions and your interests, and then see what we can do, and obviously tell me how what it is that's kind of inspiring to you, and then we kind of work our way to finding other things that might be inspiring along the way.
Yeah, and that's the best way to keep them engaged and to keep them interested, and probably the best way for them to thrive as well in the future, because we all know that life is not just about our interests. We will have to do things that we don't like. But if there is something we look forward to, then whatever is more difficult or more challenging will also become easier, because we do have that passion. We do have that something to look up to.
And I do love the way as well, as with some of my students, that you will ask them, so how do you feel about doing this? And they were just so blunt with it. No, I don't feel that at all. I'm not interested. That sounds terrible, which is kind of refreshing to me, because I'm sort of like, a lot of the time kind of go along with things, and and I know that that's part of sometimes being patient and trying other things, but they will just outright say, no, that sounds boring. Okay, well, I've got something to work with.
Yep. It's about honesty and being honest with yourself and with those who are supporting you. And I find that really beautiful. It's one of my favorite parts of neurodivergence, is the honesty. They are genuine. And that's fantastic. Neurodiverse Voices Podcast, celebrating difference. How do you define neurodiversity, and why is it important to recognize the concept these days?
So I believe neurodiversity is obviously a very vast subject, as people are quite complex and nuanced. And nuance has been my favourite word recently, because you can use it in lots of contexts. I don't know, I'm using it out in the world in terms of like politics. People are very dogmatic, black and white, and certain things and certain situations might have, one side is being told by one person, everyone's perception is going to be different, and so the way that we perceive the world is going to be different. And so neurodiverse people are obviously perceiving the world different to maybe you or I, or lots of times people who are autistic are experiencing the world with a lot more senses. So I know certain people that will be really overstimulated with things like smells or noises. Sometimes I have people going, "Oh my God, can you hear that train?" We're based in Didcot, and there's a train station there, and people are going, "That train is making so much of a racket," but I'm completely not tuned into it. And then lots of neurodiverse people might be specifically autistic people might be going, that's all they can focus on. It's almost like experiencing the world with more senses kind of. And then, obviously we've got this vast spectrum of people that, as I said, can only concentrate in certain ways in certain environments. So it's a little bit more of just a nuanced approach to life than sort of neurotypical.
Yeah, with the example of the trains, it reminded me of my daughter, because sometimes I didn't even notice, but she's already saying airplane, and I didn't even heard it. But I don't know, she can hear everything like that. Again, as you say, you just carry on with your life, and they have this capability of listening so far away, which is wonderful.
We've been, and even certain things. So I've had young people that have want to come in and that really love the gym because there's lots of stuff that they can touch in the gym. And I know a young man that's very keen on walking around and touching plants in the garden because they love, they want to experience things with all of their senses, kind of thing. So it's really just fascinating, basically, to see how different people respond to different stimulus.
Yeah, and I just said something. I said that it's wonderful, but we also need to keep in mind that it can be quite challenging for them as well.
Definitely, it can be overwhelming if you go. So I don't want to elaborate too much, but sometimes we've been outdoors on doing some work outdoors, and some of these kids, their senses are just going to be overloaded. If you go to a farm, there's lots of smells, there's lots of mud and things like that outside, and animals, that you don't know. You don't necessarily, it's hard to trust what a goat is going to do. So,
yeah, and what's predictable is normally better because they know what to expect. So it's both. As we were saying, it's fantastic that they have these capabilities, but then we need to be conscious that can be difficult, and they might even cope with the environment at the time, but then later there might be a meltdown, like it happens, that you have no idea of how it started, and it could have been that it was something that they experienced the day before, and then it took a while for it to actually for the behavior that cannot be controlled to actually happen. So but it's good to learn all of these little things, and again, I think difference is better.
Yes.
Otherwise, the world would be very, very boring. We would all be the same, and not interesting at all.
Variety is the spice of life.
Neurodiverse Voices Podcast, celebrating difference. Yes, that's very true. So, what are the current misconceptions that you encounter about people with neurodivergence?
Well, I would say the first thing that actually my misconception was that all people that were autistic would be completely introverted. Because there's some highly talkative people with autism that I was like, I didn't realise that they were autistic because they were so vehement about talking. That's definitely been a misconception on my behalf, and I like that people were saying that autism is their superpower, because yes, there are some people that are autistic, and I feel like as a society we measure too much our productivity, but there are obviously lots of people that are able to function in this society that we've built, and kind of like you said, Einstein, for instance, is a prime example, absolutely top of his field. So it just it's just people harnessing their kind of talents or whatever is still something that they're able to do. It's not like a completeness. I don't know. Some people would kind of call it like a disadvantage. It's definitely in some cases can be a real advantage, can't it?
And I feel like there is these extremes misconception. You're either the mathematician and the brain who can do amazing things, because that's probably what we've seen depicted in the movies back in the day.
Was the thing that people would always talk about.
Yeah, exactly. But then on the other side, you have, oh, poor child, autistic, will not make friends, will not speak. So yeah, and this is where there is the misconception, autism is not a line where you have high functioning and low functioning. And it's good that in some countries you already see, like in here, in my daughter's diagnosis, for example, there's no type or level. And very often I'm asked, oh, but what type is it, or what level is it? Well, there's no level. She has an ASD diagnosis with speech and language delay, which is what it is. But I really like the way it's done here in the UK, because at least there is no, it is what it is. And it's a color wheel spectrum. It's not a line. So as you were saying earlier, you have a lot of autistic chatty people, but then you might have speech and language or communication and social interaction difficulties. So again, we are all different, and each autistic person will have their own unique challenges and strengths. But it's more about shifting this thought of line to color wheel, and embracing that, understanding that they will have certain difficulties, but at the same time they are also capable, and shifting it towards a more strengths-based focus instead of on, because it starts, it's everywhere. It's you look at a report, a clinician's report, it will be focused on the weaknesses. You have an EHCP, the same thing. It's all about what they cannot do. But what about their strengths, and what about we use their strengths to actually support them better and allow them to thrive? So it's there's a lot to it. Yeah.
Neurodiverse Voices Podcast, celebrating difference.
What are some of the strategies you use to support your neurodivergent young people?
Again, so I would say like a combination of trying really hard to sort of identify interests, and then tailoring my approach towards sort of creating content that's going to resonate with students, and then in some cases just really making sure that I'm not singling them out, and I don't want to make an issue of the fact that they're neurodivergent, but also make it like giving them kind of allowing for that just by being patient. Because that's what everyone needs, is a bit more patience, I think.
Yeah, a lot more patience. I'm speaking with my mom's head now.
Well, that is the key.
You learn how to become more patient, and that's the beauty of it. Do you have a success story that you could share with us?
I would say definitely working with some children that I've met that were very shy, and not the most sort of articulate in terms of they just weren't comfortable with talking, that was all. And they've gone away and come back They've come into one of my workshops and gone, oh, wow, this is amazing, and then gone away, and off of their own back, they've come back the next week with lyrics that they had rewritten.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, 10-year-old lad, and he'd written, and he'd created his sort of his rap pseudonym, and it was really like quite some emotional about it to see he'd sort of come out of his shell, and it's great.
And you've created a video clip as well, right?
Yeah. So we're currently done 3 music videos so far with the kids at Oxford Creators. Yes.
Yeah, that's really good. Neurodiverse Voices Podcast, celebrating difference. Really good. How much do you learn with them?
So my good philosophy, I love this. I'm probably full of cliches and platitudes, but I love the saying. I love the saying, each one teach one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's like a great phrase, and so they're constantly teaching me, and then because I love learning, I just find it intriguing just to see their strengths. So sometimes they've been looking at me like I'm a bit of a dinosaur, because some of them are like I'm tech savvy, but they're if they're into gaming PCs and stuff, and they're quite opinionated. Oh, you should download this browser and that browser, and I love to see them kind of. I just kind of.
It's so good that you are having them proactively showing you new things and how you can. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so there's obviously lots of things like that, and then just the whole honesty thing that I was just finding quite refreshing. I just I'm a bit of a people pleaser actually as well, so it's quite nice to just see that these kids, even though they're kids, are just like, no, I'm not doing that, and you're like, oh, actually, fair enough.
Which is fair enough. Yeah. Neurodiverse Voices Podcast, celebrating difference. Yeah, sometimes it's difficult to say no, isn't it? But with time, I think you start mastering how to say no. At least, I'm also a people's pleaser, but I think with time, I learned at least a tiny bit, I would say, to say no. So
if I go in a little bit, so again, I read a few books actually, so I've gone quite deep into reading about bereavement and things. And as a child that was bereaved as a kid, quite often bereavement can, I believe, sort of trigger your fight-flight response, and one of the responses is fawn. So in order to prevent conflict, if you're what's the word, your nervous system obviously is kind of heightened, and so you people please because you kind of can't be dealing with the conflict. So I'm not great at dealing with conflict, I have to say, but I find it better than being in fight mode.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the last mode.
Yes, that's exactly what we want to avoid. Yeah. What areas do you think neurodivergent young people and individuals in general are failed the most?
Again, like a bit of a sort of catchphrase on this bit, it's trying to put a square peg in a round hole, like forcing people to fit into this sort of one size fits all approach to like learning and work. Like people have got different needs, and they're going to thrive better in different environments, and they're going to require patience and understanding. As I said before, if you hate art and you're not very good at it, why would you force someone to participate in it? Or if you think, well, I want to grow up to be a bricklayer, for instance, forcing algebra on them is a waste of time. For me, as someone when I left school, I went and studied business because I thought, business, that's a good thing to do. And then I could see lots of my friends that were having a really great time doing media, making films. And I'm like, oh man, why did I do business studies? And because a lot of the stuff is kind of practical. It's practical to you when you're when it's relevant and you're using it. But I wasn't going to be starting businesses at like 17, 18 kind of thing. Yeah, so not necessarily, but yeah, some people I'm sure would thrive. But what I should have been guided and, you know, into doing media, there was a place in Abingdon which again was my inspiration, and it was called The Net, and it was a youth centre where you could go and there was a recording studio and a rehearsal space kind of thing. And I was never like sent to The Net. You know, if you're not going into school, there's this, let's explore other options. I mean, I do believe it is getting better now with alternative provisions. Yeah. There are a lot more options, but I want to see, like, some kids just aren't going to thrive in school. Do not, what a waste of time in forcing them. I mean, say if you're going to get, I don't know, they've changed up the grading system with GCSEs now. So say you were going to get a U in maths anyway, and well, we must do maths and English, and, you know, but it's just not, some kids aren't going to be using it, you know, what you're learning in GCSE maths. And, you know, there are plenty of builders I know that have gone on to learn maths because they needed it, because, you know, you need to be measuring things down to the millimetre, or you count, you know, you're then later on in life you're calculating percentages of when you're doing your VAT return. Or for me, physics is really relevant to sound, but, you know, but it wasn't kind of sold to me in that kind of a way when I was at school. So it's trying to find, you know, things for neurodivergent people, targeting, you know, their interests and what they're highlighting their strengths.
Yeah, it's about adjusting the system so that, you know, they don't need, and I was thinking about the GCSEs. I think in almost every job you need English and maths GCSEs, right? I don't know. I'm asking Mark.
Not well. I've worked most of my career as a freelancer, so it's never come up. And, you know, and lots of these kids could potentially go off, and that's again very popular now. Is that you know, people are starting their own businesses, they're innovating for themselves, and that's what I say. Start channeling into that kind of innovation and finding that creative spark. You know, because things like apprenticeships, you know, now we know that plumbers can earn serious, not it's all about money, you know, because I believe in like a vocation and a cause, but they, you know, you're probably earning loads more money if you're a plumber than you're a junior doctor. And obviously I know we need junior doctors, please, you know, like, you know, let's recruit more of them. But it's just that one size fits all, that expectation that, you know, you must go through this school path and go to university kind of thing.
Like there's only one way, but there's not only one way. There are other ways where you can thrive. Neurodiverse Voices Podcast, celebrating difference. How would you change, or what changes would you like to see in the system and in society in general towards neurodivergent people?
I would just say just tons more patience. Again, I keep saying patience and understanding. And like we've got the information now. So yeah, just sharing that information and letting people know that obviously neurodiversity is it's nothing to, you know, doesn't have to be like this taboo subject. You know, let's learn some more about it, basically.
Let's talk about it. Yeah. And talking about it is the start for understanding and for acceptance. So, yeah.
I mean, as I said to you, I've come in here, and it's not like I'm speaking at it like as an academic. It's all, you know, these are all, I keep saying, it's anecdotal evidence. It's just my take on the situation. And, you know, there could be certain things that I might say that, you know, I'm getting the situation completely wrong or whatever. But it's just my interpretation.
Yes, but, you know, lived experience is very valid and very valuable. And as you know, I've actually interviewed 2 academic researchers recently. And, you know, they are so interested in our own lived experiences because it's important for any research that they do to understand what we go through as parents and the young people, how, to live the experience. it's not just about what you learn in school. If you go to university, if you don't, I do have a degree, but I always had in my head, I want to go to university and I want to do communication and media, and I did. But I got that chance, and I always thrived, or most of the times. I never had positive grades in physics and chemistry, maths. I was always the only year I had good marks in maths was year 12 or something like that, because it was all about statistics. And that's the only thing I like and I understand in maths.
It was relevant to your brain and
Yeah, exactly. But even like that, I didn't go to university in my own country. I did it here. But I always had this dream. Am I using a lot of what I learned during those 3 years in my degree, in my career? Not really. It was very theoretical. I appreciate everything and all the coursework that actually helped me to retain the knowledge, because back in Portugal, for example, the testing is more exams based. So I feel like if you're studying for an exam, you study, and then you do the exam, and then boom, okay, you don't need to think about it anymore. Whereas this is something I like about the university system in here, and it might be that in Portugal now, I don't know, it could be that it's changed. And I learned a lot, but it was not a practical course. So what I'm doing here with you, for example, we have this passion in common, the media. I would like to be a lot more tech savvy, a lot more, to have had more practical modules at university, and I didn't. But that was my foundation. So I had a module that was persuasive communication, for example, where I had to write a speech and learn about Aristotle's ethos, pathos, and logos. Do I use that these days? Not much. It's just me being me. But and I'm lost with what I was going to say.
Lots of it was theoretical, wasn't it? But when you're putting something into practice, I guess it's kind of the theory is helpful if you have it, but you're not going to remember all of it, are you?
Exactly, and it's the same. I think it's the same with neurodivergent young people, that you need to give them the opportunity to try things. Like at Oxford Creators, for example, they are having these practical skills. Yes, it is important that you know the basics. You know how to do a maths calculation, and you know how to write, you know how to read, but it's just changing the system. And I can already see some changes, and I'm really hopeful that, with the new government, and this is me not being, I don't really have a political opinion because I'm not political whatsoever, but just the change in the government, I think it's going to be positive. And
at least, you could say your politics is at least just a politics of compassion, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. And advocacy for neurodivergence. And I will not shut up until everyone knows about neurodiversity.
Exactly. Well, you're doing a pretty good job with the podcast.
Thank you. I'm doing my best.
Neurodiverse Voices Podcast, celebrating difference.
What advice would you give to neurodivergent young people who are potentially struggling to find their ways and knowing what to do in the future?
Really good specific example, actually, of so I've got a young guy, super intelligent, he's really, really great kid, but he was putting so much pressure on himself. So I had to say, look, just go easy on yourself a little bit. Like, your standards are so super high, just bring it down a little bit. And I am a bit political, actually, but I'm not going to go too much on my soapbox. But Barack Obama came up with it's a great phrase, which is aim for 51%. Yeah, if you can get to 51%, and then you you can increase your percentile once you're there. But quite often it's this perfectionism that we have, which is a bit of a curse. And I do it myself because I want to release a song and I can do hundreds of vocal takes, but then you're not going to get it out there. If you're too much of a perfectionist, do the project, get it out there, let it go, forget about it, and work on the next one. And then slowly but surely, you'll see like an incremental increase in your skills.
And that I'm actually thinking about the podcast. That's exactly what I thought. It doesn't need to be perfect, because I tend to be a bit like that. If it's not perfect, it cannot be shown, it cannot be out. No, it doesn't need to be perfect. You perfect it as you finesse it as you go along the process. So yeah, young people, don't look for perfection. Look for what you can achieve, and work on
realistic targets.
Exactly, work on your realistic targets, and you will get there. And what about any advice to parents?
Well, I'm not a parent, so it's a difficult question for me to answer. But again, the running theme I would just say is patience again, and if your patience is running low, try and find some more. And just because life isn't linear, and just remember that, and we all have strengths and weaknesses, basically.
Yeah, I normally say that if anyone knows a shop where patience is sold, to let me know. It would be great if we could buy it in a material way, but that's not the case. So we just need to work on ourselves, and yeah.
Neurodiverse Voices Podcast, celebrating difference.
So let's talk a bit more about you now. Besides being a mentor at Oxford Creators, what would you say that defines you as an individual?
I'm absolutely obsessed with travel and embracing and meeting just different people with different cultures. I definitely say I'm quite extroverted, and I love learning about other people. Talking, as you might have noticed, I've gone off on quite a few tangents. And not that I like the sound of my own voice, but I do like talking. I am fanatical about music and creating stuff, and I'm like,
and we do need to create something together.
I'm always up for collaboration, because it's the more people that you can collaborate with on, it's then reaching out, and it's got lots of different people's energies and different people's ideas combining, and I'm just, as you can hear, I'm obviously quite very passionate about creating things. And as I say, I am also very passionate about politics. But when I say that, I just say I'm just really into just equality, basically.
And that's a good passion to have. I wish I was a bit more opinionated in terms of politics.
It was I've born into quite a political family. Like, my mum was very staunch sort of advocate of politics. So I picked it up from her.
When it's in the family, it's in the family. Yeah. Who is your biggest support in your journey?
Well, again, so I'd say my girlfriend is great, and I've got some really exceptional friends that I'm kind of forever indebted to. They've just been there for me through thick and thin. Unfortunately, as I say, my mum passed away 3.5 years ago, but she was my absolute rock. And she was just really patient with me, because I was very wild as a young man, in my teen years, and she just never gave up on me. And interestingly as well, so she was a teacher. And if I could just share, this is quite an interesting, you can cut it if you like, but so because she was so passionate about education, I had a letter that she had written to Tony Blair about when we were clearing out her house. I found this letter that was returned from Tony Blair's office, because she had written this passionate advocating letter about how she believed in equality for all in education. Wow. And that, obviously it was very inspiring to me, that she was so passionate with working with young people, and she'd worked in some, I think they were called pupil referral units as well, so there was kids that were struggling. But unfortunately for her, as is often the case, I didn't take to academia because I was going through some struggles, but she was always there for me. So and
she supported you regardless of
of that?
We were told to just grow up to be decent people. Yeah. That's the most important thing.
It is indeed. And yeah, there's no reason why I would cut this. This is, yeah, thank you for sharing.
Neurodiverse Voices Podcast, celebrating difference.
That's a pleasure.
And who is your biggest inspiration? Is that your mum?
Well, so I didn't want to. Yeah, she was very inspiring to me. But I went on to. So this is funny. So because I thought of it as, someone that everyone could relate to in the world, I went for. Have you ever seen the film School of Rock?
Jack Black?
Jack Black.
Yes.
So I'm calling myself the hip hop version of Jack Black in School of Rock. This brilliant. I just love his energy is amazing. He's hilarious and super talented multi-instrumentalist. So yeah, love Jack Black.
I actually met him.
Oh really?
Yes, I think it was in 2009. So I had just moved. I was living here for 1 year, and I worked at the pub in Woodstock.
Right.
And then suddenly me and my auntie, because we were working together there. Suddenly I hear my auntie saying, "Oh, what are you doing here? I just saw you on TV." And I looked, and that was Jason Segel from How I Met Your Mother.
Right.
Marshall, yeah. And then that day, they had dinner there, and Jack Black was with him and Emily Blunt because they were shooting the Gulliver's Travels at the Blenheim Palace. So yeah, it was a pretty cool experience. I spoke more with Jason because Jason was coming every single day to have his pint of Guinness and tipping me. So I think Guinness was $3.50 at the time, and he was leaving me £5. And I do have a picture with Jason Segel, not with Jack Black, but no. Yeah, you should be the one working at that pub, and you would have met him as well.
Oh yeah, no, he's great, absolutely great.
Oh, it's my turn to ask you a question. Sorry, I got into the. And now going to the superheroes and superpower question: who would you be if you could, or what superpower would you have?
My superpower I would have would be a cure for cancer.
Okay.
And if I was going to be a superhero, again, I've gone a bit political here, I would just be the president of the United States of America so that I could bring in just healthcare, housing, food security for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we would get Trump out of there. Yeah. And I'm sorry to those who are Trump fans, but I'm not. And I'm not political, but yeah, I just don't like that man. So
yeah, let's just be decent to I mean, said I am a bit of a pseudo hippie, but yeah.
Well, Mark, you're still on time, take a plane, go to the US and, put yourself up for the general elections. Yeah, that's really good. And yeah, cure for cancer would be wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, life can be so beautiful, but there's so much bad stuff that we have to face and deal with. So yeah, I know it's all part of it, but cancer is definitely something that is not needed.
But we've got to, we use it as, like I said, embrace the good times. Yeah.
And what are your hopes for the future?
Just continue just with the progress that I feel like I'm making, and just reach out to more people, make more content, and just see more of the world, and just what can I say? Spread a bit more of the good kind of vibes.
Yeah, and that sounds the way to go, isn't it? The best way to go, actually. Yeah. And if your heart had a voice, what would it tell us?
Again, spread the love, follow your dreams, and just savor every moment, because we're here for a good time and not a long time.
Yeah, that's it. All cliches, but
they are
again,
full of them.
No, but I'm just going back to what you were saying. It's all cliches. Cliches are perfect, and I keep saying this. If more people wouldn't say, "Oh, that's a cliche," and more people believed in the cliches of, being kind, for example, and follow your dreams. All of these sentences are so inspiring. And if more of us would live up to them, I'm sure that we would be all in a better place.
Yeah, definitely. And, that's what helps you to remember things, doesn't it? If someone says, kind of quite a poignant and articulate way, then you remember it, don't you? So
Exactly. Mark, this was a fantastic conversation. I really had a good time. It feels like we were just having a coffee or a drink in the sunshine. We are not outside. I wish we were. So thank you so much for your time. You did amazing. I know this was your first episode in a podcast, so good practice. And yeah, I'm asking my guests to think about potentially coming back next year for another season to tell me how things are going, and I'll keep seeing you around at Oxford Creators.
I love it, Andrea. Yeah, I could have talked all day.
Yeah, me too.
Perfect. No, brilliant.
But we have things to do.
That's true. Cool.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I love this episode, recorded in a warm, sunshiny summer day. Mark is such a wonderful human being. I love his approach to life, even having gone through a huge deal growing up. I hope you enjoyed listening to his life story and that his advice to neurodivergent young people is heard. Also, the advice to parents, because he's truly capable of establishing great connections with young people by just being his genuine and natural self. Thank you, Mark, for supporting the Neurodiverse Voices podcast. And although I'm no longer working for Oxford Creators and I might not see Mark as regularly as before, I look forward to accompany his journey and wish him all the success in the world. His students and Oxford Creators are the luckiest to have him. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Neurodiverse Voices podcast. I know that a Diaries of an Autism Mom episode is very much overdue, but I have a long list of guests to be interviewed, which I am prioritizing at the moment. The next guest episode will be with the beautiful Lorraine, who is autistic ADHD herself, a mom of 2 wonderful autistic daughters, and the founder of the project Neurodivergent. The episode will be out on November the 2nd. I hope to have you on that side. Then keep an eye out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to stay updated with future guest episodes. Bye!